Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Super Lunch Bros Podcast, episode number 152. I am Brendan. UFC Fight Night, Ortega versus Rodriguez ended in a lackluster way. The fights ended early, so can't complain about that. So that was pretty cool. There's some banger fights on this card, really good finishes, some excellent prospects, some stuff to look forward to as far as future title contenders. Possibly the title shot coming next for some of these fighters. Fantastic stuff. So we're going to talk about Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega, Amanda Lemos versus Michelle Waterson Gomez, Li Jingliang versus Muslim Salikhov, and then Matt Schnell, Sumudaerji. So, we're going to cover the main card here, and then on the next video, we're going to do the prelims. So if you're looking for the prelims, those are on the next one. And also, each one of these fights will be time-stamped in the description down below. So if you're really only interested in certain fights from this card and you only want to hear discussions on those things, it's down below. So click that and it'll take you right to those fights. That being said, if you could subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it, because if you like UFC, if you like MMA, if you like people talking about those things and breaking down fights a little bit, that's what I do here. Every single week, 2 or 3 videos. I've been doing this for a while now, and I really enjoy doing it, and it helps out when you guys subscribe. It lets me know that you guys are interested in these things. If you like the video, click like, and I'd really appreciate it. If you checked out some more of my stuff. Let's get going. Let's talk about this stuff here. All right, Yair Rodriguez defeating Brian Ortega via TKO due to a shoulder injury. Now, a little bit to break down as far as the fight goes, because the fight did not last very long. Obviously, it ended in the first round with only 50 seconds left. It's unfortunate the way it ended, but it is not. We'll get to it. So Yair was landing really clean shots, and Ortega didn't really like it, so he pressed him into the cage and got the clinch and was going for a takedown. Yair got out of that one. Landed really good jabs. He was landing straights, leg kicks, high kicks, lots of lead elbows, lots of volume, landing pretty much whatever he wanted. There was lots of meaningless knees back and forth along the cage from both guys, but nothing of note there. Ortega was taking the strategy that he usually does of just eat a bunch of punches to the face and get close. He does it a lot. He has a really good chin, and he has decent cardio, and he's very tough, so it keeps him in these fights. But as we've seen from his last couple performances, he takes a lot of damage. A lot of damage. And because of that, I don't understand how his career is going to have any sort of longevity. I mean, you burn the candle, you burn bright. He's gotten a title shot. He's faced both the last 2 champions. He's defeated some high-profile fighters, some legacy fighters to put on his resume, which is pretty cool. And he's had some interesting moments in the cage, I could say that. And he definitely has the skills to be a really good fighter. And he is one. Obviously, he's still ranked in the top 5. It's just doing this stuff with this strategy of just taking punishment and abuse cannot be good long-term. So what happened was Ortega got into a takedown position, right? He was working Yair into a takedown. Yair managed to get on top, but no, my bad. Yair was on the bottom, and Ortega was, setting something up. Okay, but Yair throws up a armbar / triangle attempt. He lifts his hips up, grabs an arm, and he's holding on to Ortega's arm really tight. And Ortega goes to yank his arm out, and in doing so dislocated his shoulder, and that ended the fight. Now, Ortega was asking, after the fight, Yair said, with all, very respectfully, hey, if he wants to run it back, run it back. I would like a title shot after this, though, because, I just beat the number, what was his ranking before? Number 2 guy in the world. I was number 3. His loss was to Max Holloway before that, who can't have another title shot in this era right now. So, it's Yair Rodriguez versus Volkanovski, or, I wouldn't mind seeing Rodriguez versus Emmett. I think that fight would be banger. But I want to see Emmett get a title shot. He's done too much in this division not to get a title shot, and I think Yair, based off his hype, could get a title shot right now, but I would still prefer him to have one more fight before then. That being said, I don't know who he would fight, so maybe they run it back. And then Ortega said afterwards, hey, That's not the way either one of us wanted this to end. Come on, let's run it back. Well, if he needs shoulder surgery, like he also mentioned, why should anybody wait for you? And you were pulling out of a position that Yair was putting you in, and in doing so, you dislocated your shoulder. Now, was this the intent of Yair to dislocate Ortega's shoulder like that? Not necessarily, but he was doing something offensive, and Ortega, with offense in mind and repositioning and on the ground, I'm sure he had some sort of setup and things that he was going for. Like he said, he was going for a leg or whatever. And I'm sure he would have put himself in a better position. That's all here. That's all what ifs, though, because he was taking a defensive position by trying to grab and get his arm back in control. And by doing that, he dislocated his shoulder. So there's no reason for Yair to hang his head. There's no reason for him not to take away that this was a victory. He was doing excellent on the feet. I mean, yeah, you can look at the striking numbers and they look close and all, but I could tell you, the ones that were coming back, Yair was landing some nasty, nasty shots on the feet, really good ones, and Ortega was landing, some good ones of his own, and rightfully so. Look at that, 22-23 in favor of Yair, so it wasn't a total blowout. But the ones that were coming back, I'm telling you, because look at the clinch striking. 7 of those, if any of those counted as a significant strike, those are meaningless to me because none of them were hard enough, right? These 15 distance strikes, yeah, you see that? 15 distance strikes to 21. That's the real striking numbers right there. This is baloney. He did not land any good stuff in the clinch. Nothing of note. And maybe he landed one good shot in the clinch that could be of note, but I doubt it. And even so, we'll count this one for Yair, so that cancels out. So 21-15 was the real striking numbers there. Yair was teeing off on him and landing pretty much whatever he wanted. Ortega, as usual, like I said, doesn't move his head very well, throws with power and has cardio, but takes a lot of abuse in doing so by moving forward. So, this is much different. So if you guys pay attention to Eagle FC or you watch my video on Eagle FC, the one that took place with Junior Dos Santos versus Yorgan De Castro, something similar happened where Junior Dos Santos' right arm came out of its socket, right? His shoulder came out of the socket, and it was dislocated, and that's why the fight ended. And if you remember, I took a very no-nonsense stake in that. I was like, this is baloney. I mean, it ended the way it should have, right? Yorgan De Castro gets the win. But Yorgan De Castro came out of that saying like, oh, yeah, I defeated him. I got the win here, blah, blah, blah. That's bullshit compared to this one, okay? Because Junior Dos Santos was winning that fight in the first round, and in the second round was landing ungodly amount of shots, and that's why his shoulder dislocated. It was not something that Yorgan De Castro did to him. It was a punch that was thrown, and by doing so, the force pulled it out of the socket. It was not a defensive maneuver that Junior Dos Santos was making that pulled it out of the socket, which is exactly what happened here with Brian Ortega. So those of you who want to apologize for Ortega and talk about how good he is and how he, this was bullshit or whatever, just pump your brakes. The dude luckily didn't take a ton of damage in this fight. So all things being considered, I think that's a win for him based off what I saw early on. And, in that interaction on the ground, Yair did not look like he was out of place. Like he was doing things. So we didn't really get to see how that played out. And maybe Yair gets submitted. Maybe Yair looks like a fish out of water down there. Okay, fine. But on the feet, Ortega was taking damage as usual. And Yair wasn't going to stop. We saw it with Holloway. He's not going to stop. So congratulations to Yair. I can't wait to see him fight somebody else. I don't want to see the rematch unless it's immediately. And judging by the way the shoulder popped out and the fact that Ortega's had 2 shoulder surgeries already, I don't find that likely. I also don't want Rodriguez to get a title shot over Emmett just because Yair's, he's traded wins and losses over his past 6 fights. Okay? No, the one of those Jeremy Stevens ones was a no contest, but the loss to Max Holloway really puts a damper on the situation just because I feel like he doesn't have the claim to fame or the title that Emmett does with his win streak. So yes, he might have a win over a guy with a higher ranking, and his ranking is technically higher. That's fine. I don't want him getting a title shot over Emmett. If they both end up getting title shots, more power to him. I'm happy with that, but I'd rather Emmett get his first. Cool. All right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think he deserved. This is not one of those things where I don't think he deserves a title shot. He absolutely deserves a title shot based off of the layout and like the landscape of the division. He absolutely deserves one based off of his recent performances. Fine, but there's other people who also deserve it, in my opinion, more. Michelle Waterson Gomez, versus Amanda Lemos. Not Wanda. Good grief. What's wrong with me? This fight, Michelle Waterson, she is a little bit of the old guard. She was throwing harder in this fight than I normally see her do, and she outlanded Lemos in the first round. I gave that and she got a takedown at the end of the round and landed some good damage on the ground. Michelle Waterson definitely got the first round. That's cool. But, and in the second round, she was doing good on the feet, so she could have won this fight if she kept it on the feet and went the distance, but she didn't. Lemos got a guillotine, and Waterson tapped. So what was interesting about this tap is that the ref didn't see it. Lemos let go, and then Michelle Waterson said, "Oh, I tapped." Class act all the way around. Both women, fantastic job. I love to see it. Lemos clearly knew she felt the tap, so she didn't want to keep going, even though technically she's supposed to keep going until the ref stops it. She felt the tap, and then Michelle Waterson absolutely just saying, yeah, like I tapped. So class act all the way around. No controversy there. Really cool. Love to see it. What's next for Michelle Waterson? Well, nothing good. Losing to Joanna, Carla, beating Angela Hill barely. Losing to Marina Rodriguez and Amanda Lemos. I think the game has passed her up. She definitely can hang in there with some less skilled opponents, and she has the striking to do so. But I don't think I said it before, I don't think she's ever going to be champion. Not that that's the end all be all. And if she wants to keep fighting, I'm sure they can make some interesting matchups for her. But strawweight has moved past her. As far as Amanda Lemos goes, with her loss to Jessica Andrade, puts a little bit of the brakes on her title contention, because had she got that win, she probably would have been fighting for a title right now. Because before that, she was 5 wins in a row. And again, a win over and a close win over Angela Hill, like everybody else. And the ones before that, maybe not necessarily the biggest ones, and a loss to Leslie Smith. So where does Lemos fit in here? I don't. She's probably not popping into the top 15 after this. At least I hope not. Yeah. Oh. My bad. She was ranked number 11 before this, and Michelle Waterson Gomez was ranked number 10. So I guess she's moving up. Maybe they'll switch spots. Maybe she'll move ahead of Amanda Ribas. Tisha Torres won her last fight against Mackenzie Dern, in my opinion, so fucking whatever. I'm still butthurt about that. I hate that crap. I really do. I hate hype jobs, and I hate bad decisions, and it all just culminated in that fight. Not super fun. I'm not going to touch on that, though. No need to. Li Jingliang versus Muslim Salikhov. Fun fight. Fun fight. Li getting the win here via KO. Yeah, we'll call it a KO in the second round. The first round, the striking was going back and forth. Both guys landing good shots to the legs. Lots of leg damage. Jingliang focused much more on the legs, as you can see here, landing 13 of 20 as opposed to the 2 of 2 that Salikhov did. I thought he landed more, but Salikhov did a decent job in that first round, keeping it even. And look at that, 11-11 as far as significant strikes go. I don't think that number is that far off. I think it was pretty darn close in that first round. Salikhov got the takedown and landed decent damage on the ground. It wasn't the best round. Neither one did a lot of damage, but I even thought the damage was probably even. And like I said, 11-11 here. So as far as significant strikes, neither one of them was landing something more significant than the other, I would say. And Muslim had the control advantage, so I gave him that first round. Second round, Lee just turned it up. He did. He kept swinging these big looping hooks, and he started from so far away. He needs to learn that, and he had to lean in to reach him. So it was not very effective. And then it just was, he took a step in and he started to adjust and get his range, and it was great. Salikhov actually dropped Lee early in the round after Lee kept pressing forward. And then after that, Lee kept pressing forward and landing leg kicks, getting a takedown, and landing upstairs with some really good hooks, finally wobbling Muslim and getting the TKO finish to end the fight at 4:38 in the first round. So good win for Jingliang after, obviously, the hype train that ran him over in Khamzat Chimaev. He's no slouch. He's very good. He can compete with the best of them in this division at moments, but he definitely does have weaknesses, that being grappling for sure. And in this situation where he's got, the loss to Jake Matthews doesn't help, but, good wins over good opponents like Diego Lima back in the day, back in 2015. Wow, he's been fighting in the UFC that long? That's crazy to me. But it's really big. His biggest win. So obviously getting the loss to Neil Magny, just getting grinded out, that happens. Neil Magny does that to a lot of people. And then beating Santiago Ponzinibbio and knocking him out, that was very impressive. Now Ponzinibbio has come back, and I think if they rematch this fight, Ponzinibbio probably comes out the victor. But Jingliang was, knocking on the, possibly making it to the top 10 here. And then here comes Khamzat to run him over. And now beating Muslim Salikhov, hey, but maybe he can work his way back in there. And I think he has the ability to challenge a lot of guys here. It's just the Sean Brady's, the people. I think Stephen Thompson would be a fun fight for him. I think Gilbert Burns. I don't want him fighting someone here in the top 5. That doesn't make sense. Vicente Luque would be a fun fight, although he just won his last one, so I don't. Oh no, he didn't. He lost to Bilal Muhammad, so maybe that's a good fight for him. Shavkat would be fun, but Shavkat's, he's on a rocket ship. Shavkat needs to fight somebody else in the top 10 here. So Jingliang might move ahead of Jeff Neal and possibly Neil Magny, which would be interesting because he has a loss to him relatively recently. So maybe there's a fight for him here, somewhere along here. Maybe a Vicente Luque, maybe a Stephen Thompson, although I don't think Thompson's going to take that fight. Maybe Jorge Masvidal, I don't think that fight's ever happened. That fight is definitely not happening right now. Jorge Masvidal is still a cash cow for the UFC, just maybe not as far as like pay-per-view sales, but as far as promotional material and hyping up fights, he does a very good job of that. Whether that translates directly into pay-per-view sales, it's yet to. I don't think it does, but that doesn't matter necessarily because they can catch a lot of it on the back end. Good fight, fun fight. Jingliang's got what it takes, I still think, to compete in that division, and we'll see going forward. Matt Schnell versus Sumudaerji. This fight was bananas. BANAS bananas. It was great fight. So Matt Schnell ends up getting the submission win late in the second round at 4:24 in the second round here. First round went to really okay. I was just looking at the striking numbers. For the guys who are watching me for the first time, I don't look up striking numbers before I record these. I like to form my opinion before I look at the striking numbers. Obviously, if they show them on the broadcast, I can't help that. But I like to form my opinion before that, experiencing it how a judge would, because they are not privy to the round-by-round striking numbers and the ground control time and all that stuff that you get on the broadcast. So I like to experience it like they would. Matt Schnell also came out to Fancy by Reba McEntire, which was interesting. Really funny, actually. Matt was doing a good job on the feet, getting back, getting the back, then losing position and taking damage on his back. Matt went for an omoplata. He got it really deep, so Sumudaerji picked him up and slammed him on the ground, but Matt uses that to get to the back, and then Schnell stayed on the top and got really good damage. I gave him that first round. I felt like the submission and the damage that he did do was pretty significant. Even though he was behind here, 13-19 in favor of Sumudaerji as far as the significant strikes go, I still gave that first round to Matt Schnell. And then in the second round here, dude, it was a firefight, and then Sumudaerji just kind of went off and started catching Schnell. I'm going to say a lot of things here, and I might sound repetitive, but when I was writing down these notes, I just didn't know how to say it because the same thing kept happening over and over again. So if you did not watch this fight, go watch this fight. It is worth it. It is worth it. Even if you know the results, it's worth it to watch this fight. So Sumudaerji he landed a hard a hard straight left hand that stumbled Matt, and he did it twice, and then Schnell got hurt like super bad. Then he landed again and dropped him with a right elbow twice. Sumudaerji did. So he lands 2 left hands that rock Schnell, and then he lands 2 right elbows that drop Schnell. And then I wrote, like, holy shit, Schnell is just staying in his face. You know, Sumudaerji was dropping him, landing these big shots, wobbling Schnell, but Schnell just kept staying in his face. Matt just kept moving forward, and he was just getting tagged over and over, but did not stop moving forward. This guy is crazy tough. You know, it's all mental toughness. His body tried to give out on him multiple times, and he just willed himself back into walking forward because his legs were not with him. And even after the fight, he said, I didn't remember any of these, so I can't take credit for him, meaning he was not with it mentally, right? Like his body was like wanting to quit. Schnell, and then all of a sudden, Schnell lands a right hand and stuns Sumudaerji, got on top in mount, ended up on Sumudaerji's back, then puts in a triangle, then puts Sumudaerji. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, he put him in a triangle and then put Sumudaerji to sleep with that triangle. Because Sumudaerji ended up working his way into a better position and getting on top inside of Schnell's guard, and then Schnell locks up the leg triangle, and he put him to sleep. Didn't submit him, he put him to sleep. Right? This says triangle choke from ground is how I got it. So that's called a technical submission. It is not a submission because Sumudaerji did not submit. He did not tap. He went to sleep. And then after the fight, there's, Schnell just talking about it. And I've already mentioned one thing that, like, he didn't remember any of that stuff. But one of the funny things he says is, freaking, I think he got tired from beating me. It's kind of funny doing the rope-a-dope thing. This is not like I said with Ortega, this is not a sustainable fight style. It's just not. Taking damage and staying in firefights is not a sustainable fighting style. Now, it means that you will be in some very interesting and fun fights to watch and remember. So, you pick and choose what you want for your career. Like I said, like Ortega burned really bright. He's already gotten a title shot, and he's fought the best of the best in that division. Actually, he's gotten 2 title shots, once against Holloway and then against Volkanovski. And the only reason he got that second title shot was because Holloway wasn't the champ, because that first fight with Holloway was not even close. But Schnell here, he had 4 wins in a row at one point back in 2017 to 19, but then he's kind of been trading wins and losses here. Okie dokie. Let's talk about some more insanity, shall we? Shane Bourgos versus Charles Jourdain. This fight was craziness. More craziness, I would say. Well, that's not true. The last round was craziness. Second round was controlled chaos, but nah, it was just control. It was all Shane Bourgos in the second round. But Shane comes away here with the victory. A little bit of controversy because one of the commentary members, DC, seemed to disagree with both the decision and which was the majority decision here. On two judges' scorecards, 29-28, and then Mike Bell here had it 28-28, giving Jourdain both the first and last round and Bourgos a 10-8 in the second, which is what I gave him. And we'll go through that and look at that right here. So, first round, Shane this is the controversial one, right? The first round. So this is probably the one we should spend our time on. We'll try and spend more time here on the first round to try and get an accurate, synopsis of what happened here. So let's go over it. So if we just look at the overview here, Jourdain actually landed more, 24-12, as far as significant strikes go, but that does not tell the whole story. We will get into that. So in the first round, Shane Bourgos was pressuring, and he's walking Charles down. He got the back, and then he kicked off the cage while holding on to Jourdain to force Charles to defend, which is really cool. And then he went for a neck crank and had a really hard neck crank in there. And I wrote, Jourdain might have gotten the better of the striking when they stood up and did plenty of damage, but the submission and the damage that Bourgos did also did enough to give him that first round, and that's where I came from. So Bourgos did land a takedown, and he did get an official submission attempt, right? And he had a minute and a half of control time, right? So control time means nothing if you don't do more the same amount of damage. So we can get that out of there for right now. Total strikes. Significant strikes. So he landed half of the strikes, but he did land really hard ones. Jourdain landed some hard strikes as well, but on the feet, I didn't think Jourdain, especially early in the round, I don't think he did anything so significant that it blew Bourgos out of the water. And then when Bourgos got the back, he was able to, so 10 of those significant strikes were to the body of Bourgos, and 10 were upstairs. So they both did a pretty good job mixing it up. 3, 4, 5 head, body, leg coming from Bourgos, and 10-10-4 in favor of coming from Jourdain there. So DC said he kept mentioning it and saying how he felt Jourdain did more damage. That might be true as far as damage on the feet, and I am always in favor of going by the letter of the law, and damage is key. Damage is the deciding factor, right? So if we were just looking at damage done on the feet, I would say that Jourdain won that first round. Absolutely. But that is not the only thing that matters, because when you go for a takedown and land a takedown, you can do damage in the process. So you can get a slam, which does not show up as a significant strike, but does plenty of damage. And we did see that earlier in the night in a couple different prelim fights, right? But that doesn't show up here on the significant strike count. So if you pick up your opponent and slam them down 3 times, is that worth more than a stiff jab? Probably, right? But it's not going to show up here on the strike count. Is that what happened? Not really. He ended up getting the back and locking in the body triangle. The real thing that allowed Bourgos, in my opinion, to take away that first round was getting that submission attempt. That was relatively close. Now, was he under the neck and cutting off the oxygen necessarily? No. But what he was doing was cranking the neck very hard, and he had a minute and a half of doing some a little bit of ground and pound, not a ton. No ground strikes in that first round. I don't believe that. And holding on to him, that's significant strikes, not total. Total, it's hard to know because the total strikes were also in favor of Jourdain, but obviously a majority of them were garbage, not significant strikes. That submission attempt and how close, how hard it was on Jourdain, cranking his head to the side like that, I mean, and holding it for as long as he did, 4 or 5 seconds probably, that's enough to end a lot of fights. And a guy not as tough as Jourdain might have tapped there. So how close was he to finishing the fight? I would say pretty close. And on the feet, he did enough damage to, eat away at the deficit that was, actually, there wasn't a deficit because he was out in front. It was Jourdain had a better second half of the round, or like the end of the round, where he landed some damage. So I can understand why DC is upset, because there was more damage from Jourdain on the feet. But in my opinion, based off of the actual rules, which is fine, a submission attempt counts as damage and working towards a finish and finishing the fight. Now, I've also spoken before about how it's risk reward, right? Going for a submission has control benefits, and that's about it. We're not talking about landing punches to soften up your opponent here. We're talking about just working for a submission. So let's say you're working for a rear naked choke, constantly moving alternating your left arm and your right arm, your left arm, your right arm, trying to get work underneath the neck to put yourself in a position to finish the fight. The only thing that you're getting from that is control time, because you're not doing damage. But the second you lock up a submission attempt, now this counts towards what I would consider damage, right? It's on par with, do you think a neck crank that could end the fight in certain circumstances counts more than a jab that might be counted as a significant strike? Do you think it counts more than a good right hand to the body? I would say so. So you have to take the entire round into account. You have to take the context of the entire round, right? You can't just take, he landed more punches. And I am a big proponent of that, because a lot of times the grappling doesn't do damage, and there's no real damage done on the ground. It's just control time. So yeah, I am usually on DC's side here. I just think Bourgos did enough, in my opinion. Second round, this is another point of contention that I had. So Shane Bourgos landed 28 of 39, 28 to 7 as far as total strikes go, but only 4 of those counted as significant strikes. So Jourdain technically landed more significant strikes in the second round, but Bourgos got on his back and had his back for 4 minutes going for submission attempts. It says there's only 2 here, but he had multiple times where he was very close, and Jourdain was never in a position to do anything positive other than defend. So he was defending for more than, 80% of this round, if not more. I gave him a 10-8. So I had Bourgos up 20-17. And then in this last round, Jourdain just went off, man. He was fighting like a guy who knew he was losing the fight because his corner told him. He was going for a finish. He was constantly pushing forward. Bourgos actually landed a lot of good shots of his own. Just Jourdain was teeing off on him, man. He did not stop, backing him up, doing a ton of damage. And he just, you can say whatever you want about, doing damage and all those other things. But if you can't do more damage than your opponent because you're being taken down and dominated, or your opponent is able to put you in a position where you can't do damage to them, that's MMA, man. Don't bitch about it. Don't complain about it. Jourdain, I don't think he did. But, it's one of those things where you can do all the flashy stuff and you can scream afterwards like he did, but you got to stop the takedowns. Okay? All that stuff at the end, that last round was fantastic from Jourdain, and against a lesser opponent, I think he could have got a finish. And if you gave Jourdain a 10-8 round for that last one, I'm not mad at you. Although Bourgos did land a few good strikes of his own, but if you see the disparity here, 84-26 in favor of Jourdain, easily could have been a 10-8. So, we could have seen a 28-27, which I would have been okay with. It's just there's the 28-28 here from Mike Bell, giving the first and last round, I believe. The first and the last round. Yep. You can look right here. So Mike Bell gave the second round to Bourgos, and that was the only round. But he did give Bourgos the 10-8 round. So I partially agree with Mike Bell, as usual. I think Mike Bell's a great judge. I don't always agree with him, but I think he's done. I don't think he's off his rocker. I think there's arguably, there's a way to argue for his decisions most of the time. Okay, let's move on here, shall we? Miesha Tate versus Lauren Murphy. This is Miesha Tate's first fight at 125. It did not go well. I don't know, man. This is, Miesha didn't have a bad fight. You can see on the striking numbers, which is pretty close to how, it actually went down, where, it was 26-25 in favor of Murphy, then 38-32 in favor of Murphy, and then 38-28. Each round, Miesha Tate just looked overly relaxed. I don't know if it's because she's drained physically, even though she says she felt good. She just looked relaxed and slow and not explosive. Lauren did a lot of good work, landing damage, moving around. She got some takedowns during this fight. I don't have to break it down round by round because each round is pretty much the same. Lauren Murphy just did enough to get this win. And I don't think this puts Lauren Murphy back in title contention because, beating Miesha Tate doesn't mean what it used to. She's 4-1 in her, or 1-4 in her last 5. Not a lot of positive things coming out of her. And those her last 3 fights were the real thing. So Marion Renew beating her and then losing to Ketlin Vieira and Lauren Murphy. I don't know. Again, like I said with Michelle Waterson, I think the game has just passed her up. I could tell in the last fight that the game has just passed her up. She's a scrapper. She's got decent cardio, and she's a brawl. She's even scrappy on the ground, right? She can get submissions. That's how she got the belt to begin with. I think it's one of the best. I think you can call it a comeback, even though it would have been split. We don't have to talk about that right now, but the way she got the belt, in the last round, submitting Holly Holm like that, putting Holly Holm to sleep with the rear naked choke, the Hail Mary rear naked choke. It's an incredible story. She's a great fighter. She's been a great presence in the sport. She's, her fights with Ronda and back in Strikeforce and all that stuff. It's great, but let's talk about what happened here. She looked out of place. Lauren Murphy is not the best fighter. She's not. Lauren Murphy got the win here. And yeah, look at Lauren Murphy's fight history here. Joanne Wood is the only one of note. I mean, Roxanne Modafferi, it's a quality win always, because Roxy doesn't quit easy. So getting that win's good. Andrea KGB Lee. And, actually, I don't think she should have won that one. That was a split decision. I think a lot of people thought Lee won that one. I can go back and look at my notes, but none of that stuff matters. But she lost to Shajara Eubanks, Caitlin Chukagian, Liz Carmouche, Sarah McMahon. All of her wins against people who, I mean, four losses in a row for that person. Andrea Lee, Roxanne Modafferi. Mostly losses in her UFC career. Lilia Shakirova, that was her only fight in the UFC, and it was a loss. Joanne Wood, mostly losses. Right? And then she gets to fight for the title because the division's so shallow and gets absolutely fucking mollywopped by Shevchenko. Not a single moment of that fight was close. And now she fights Miesha Tate. So that should tell you how far Miesha Tate has fallen when she's losing to Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy is not good, guys. Right? I'm not hating on her. I don't think she's a bad person. Like, personally, I have no take on that. She doesn't seem like a bad person. She seems like a hard worker, and it's done a lot of good things in her life. But she loses to so many of these fighters. The fact that Andrea Lee, this division has a problem. the talent is not that good. I mean, Katlyn Chookagian's good, all right? Jessica Andrade is good. Alexa Grasso's not bad. Manon Fiorot, she's okay. Vivian Araujo, she's... Jennifer Maya's not bad, I guess. No, Macy Barber is on the way up. So maybe Cynthia Calvillo's not turning out to be everything. Tracy Cortez, not... Wait, what? How did she move up? Oh. A boring win. Oh, maybe I do remember that one. Anyway, yeah, and Amanda Hebos had her moments. This division, guys, it's nothing anymore. I don't know if it's ever been anything, to be honest with you. We have a couple good fighters who've come up from strawweight to fight here. We have a couple good fighters from bantamweight who've come down. But the fact that these two weight classes, bantamweight and flyweight, they're not very talent rich. You know, they are cannibalizing each other. This is not like the men's divisions where they're saying they should make a 165. You know why they should make a 165? Because between lightweight and welterweight, there's 20 pounds. So you could have two divisions in there. Right? You can have another add another division in there, 165. Sorry, it's 15 pounds, 170. You make this 175, and then you have a 165 division. You know why? Because some of these guys might go up to 165, some of these guys might go down to 165, but from 16 to 30, there's nothing but killers in lightweight. Welterweight has a ton of talent moving up now. There is so much talent in those divisions. That's why people are calling for that. Because there's just these log jams, and it's not necessarily, great for the sport when one guy has the belt and then cleans out the division, or worse, when one guy has the belt and the guy below him has cleaned out the division. Now what the fuck do you do? Yeah, we've seen that time and time again, and it's not bad. Kamaru Usman's fantastic. He's one of the best fighters of all time. Charles Oliveira's really good. Okay. And this not so much in his division because, we haven't seen that, but we did see it with Khabib. There's a space here for a 165, and a lot of guys don't fit necessarily in 170 or 155. So there's a place for it, and I would like to see it. This is why I don't think the 125-pound division needs to exist. I'm glad it does because Shevchenko is the best female fighter on the planet. She just is. She just is. And strawweight, fantastic. Lots of talent. Nothing but talent. We had a person on the prelims here. It's just Miesha Tate. I don't know if she retired, but I think she needs to go. Right? She can't compete at the highest level anymore. And I know she wanted to jump down here, but Lauren Murphy is not good, and she was barely able to keep up with Lauren Murphy, and she lost decisively. So. All right, that is it. Kind of a dour note to end on there. It was a fun card, and I love when these cards are early in the day. I love not having to stay up super late to watch these things or wake up really early to watch them so I can make these videos really fast. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. This one was a little longer than I expected, but we had some controversial stuff that I just want to go over as far as like scoring goes. I appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel because if you like this, you're going to like everything I do. That way you'll see when the next videos come out. I'd put out 2 or 3 every single week. This is the main card. I'm going to be doing the prelims on the next video. Yeah, if this is the only one you want to watch, I totally understand. Thank you for stopping by. It means a lot to me. I hope everybody has an amazing week, and I love y'all.